When my son told me that I would not be welcome at his house for Christmas, I smiled, got in my car, and made one call. By the new year, I had their mortgage payments cancelled. And that was just the beginning of my plan. Justice must be restored and arrogance punished. You won't believe what I did next. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening in the comments. I could make my famous turkey this year, I said, settling deeper into Michael's leather couch, the one with the sage stuffing your mother used to love. Remember how she'd always say it was better than her grandmother's? The words hung in the warm air between us, mixing with the scent of Isabella's expensive vanilla candles. Michael shifted beside me, his wedding ring catching the light from their 12-oot Christmas tree. Something in his posture changed, shoulders pulling inward, like he was bracing for impact. Dad, unfortunately, you won't be welcome here for Christmas. The words hit me like a physical blow. I blinked, certain I'd misheard. What do you mean? Why wouldn't I be welcome? Michael couldn't meet my eyes, his gaze fixed on the marble coffee table, the one I'd helped him pick out last spring when Isabella decided their old furniture wasn't sophisticated enough. Isabella's parents are coming, and they'd prefer if you weren't here. My hands went cold. They'd prefer. It's just easier this way, Dad. You know how her family is about traditions. They have their own way of doing things. His voice got smaller with each word, like he was shrinking inside himself. I looked around the living room at the silk curtains I'd paid for when Isabella complained about privacy, at the hardwood floors that had come from my second mortgage, at the crown moulding that had maxed out my credit card. Every inch of this house bore my fingerprints, my sacrifice, my love for my son. Their own way, I repeated slowly. And what way is that, Michael? He flinched. Dad, please don't make this harder than it has to be. Through the kitchen archway, I could see Isabella's new KitchenAid mixer, the professional grade 1 she'd insisted she needed for her holiday baking phase that lasted exactly 3 weeks. 20 of my money sitting there, probably used twice since October. Where will I spend Christmas then? The question came out quieter than I intended. Michael's face crumbled. Maybe you could, I don't know, maybe visit Aunt Rosa. Or we could do something the weekend after. The weekend after. Like Christmas was just another appointment that could be rescheduled for convenience. I stood up, my knees protesting after 8 years of carrying this burden alone. I see, Dad. Wait. But I was already moving toward the door, past the family photos where my face grew smaller and more distant in each frame, past the coat closet that held Isabella's 1,000 jackets. My hand found the doorknob solid and cold under my palm. Son, I said without turning around. Tell Isabella's parents, I said. Feliz Navidad. The December air hit my face like a slap as I walked toward my truck. Behind me, I heard Michael call my name once. Then the soft click of the door closing. Final absolute. I sat in the driver's seat for a moment, engine off, watching the Christmas lights twinkle in the windows of houses I'd never be welcome in. My phone buzzed. Probably Michael wanting to smooth things over with empty promises and guilt. I didn't answer. Instead, I turned the key and drove into the darkness, leaving behind the warm glow of the house I'd bought, but would never belong in. The heater hummed against the December cold as I navigated the familiar streets toward home. South Hills sprawled around me, every neighborhood corner holding memories of the man I used to be, the one who believed family meant everything, who'd give his last dollar to see his son smile. That man was a fool. I stopped at the red light on 29th and Grand, watching a young father load Christmas presents into his SUV. His kids pressed their faces against the window, breath fogging the glass with excitement. Once upon a time, that had been Michael and me. Before Isabella. Before I became nothing more than a walking ATM with inconvenient emotions. The numbers started rolling through my head like a broken slot machine, 800 every month for 5 years. My calculator had given up trying to make sense of it last spring when I'd finally added up the total 140. More money than Maria and I had saved for our entire retirement. Gone. Just gone. I pressed the accelerator harder than necessary as the light turned green. The truck responded with a growl that matched my mood. 5th Street. That was where I'd refinanced my house. Our house, Maria's and mine, to cover their down payment. The loan officer had looked at me with pity I hadn't recognized at the time. "Mr. Flores, are you sure about this? You're putting a lot at risk for someone else's investment." Someone else's investment? Not my son's future, not my family's security. Someone else's investment. Lincoln Street, the bank where I had taken out a second mortgage when Michael lost his job 2 years ago. Just temporary, Dad. Just until I get back on my feet. Isabella had stood behind him, 700 purse slung over her shoulder, nodding sympathetically while mentally calculating how much my desperation was worth. Nothing. As it turned out, my desperation was worth nothing to them. I pulled into my driveway, the one with the cracked concrete I couldn't afford to fix because every spare dollar disappeared into their perfect suburban fantasy. The porch light flickered, another repair I'd been putting off. Inside, the house felt hollow without Maria's laughter, without the warmth of family gatherings that would never happen again. My phone rang as I fumbled with my keys, the shrill tone echoing off the empty walls. Isabella's name flashed on the screen, probably wanting to explain why I wasn't good enough for her parents' delicate sensibilities. Perfect timing. I'd been waiting 5 years to have this conversation. I answered on the 4th ring, letting her wait just long enough to wonder if I'd pick up at all. Dennis. Isabella's voice dripped with false sweetness, the same tone she used when asking me to cover their water bill or property taxes. I heard about the little misunderstanding with Michael. Misunderstanding? I leaned against my kitchen counter, still wearing my coat. I don't think there's any misunderstanding, Isabella. You made your position quite clear. Look, I know this seems harsh, but you have to understand my parents' perspective. They're very traditional people. They expect a certain atmosphere during the holidays. A certain atmosphere, I repeated. And what atmosphere is that? A pause. I could hear shopping bags rustling in the background, probably spending money that should have gone to their mortgage payment, money that was my responsibility, apparently. Well, they're not used to your kind of cooking. All that spicy Mexican food and loud music. And frankly, Dennis, they're educated people. They expect conversations about current events, literature, art. You know, the words hit harder than a physical blow. 8 years of biting my tongue, of swallowing insults for Michael's sake, of pretending not to notice the way she looked at me like I was some kind of hired help, my kind of cooking. My voice stayed level, controlled. You mean the food you ate every Sunday for 3 years, when money was tight? The tamales you said reminded you of your grandmother? That was different. We were appreciative then, but now with my parents. Now with your parents, you can't have the Mexican peasant embarrassing you at your fancy dinner table. The false sweetness evaporated. Don't be dramatic, Dennis. This isn't about race. It's about class. My father graduated summa cum laude from Washington State. My mother speaks 4 languages. They summer in the Hamptons. What exactly would you contribute to dinner conversation? Stories about laying tile. Heat flooded my chest, but I kept my voice steady. I built a business from nothing after your husband's grandfather died. I've employed over 50 people. I've paid more in taxes than your father made in his best year. Money isn't everything, Dennis. Breeding matters, education matters, and frankly, Maria understood her place better than you understand yours. The line went dead silent. She'd crossed it. The line I didn't even know existed until she'd stomped across it in her designer heels. What did you say about my wife? I'm just saying she knew how to blend in better. She didn't make waves. She understood that some spaces weren't meant for her. My hand tightened around the phone until my knuckles went white. Maria had more class in her little finger than your entire bloodline will ever possess. Oh, please. She was a house cleaner who got lucky. At least she had the good sense to stay quiet about it. Isabella. My voice dropped to something I didn't recognize. I want you to listen very carefully. This conversation is over. We're done pretending to be family. You can't just... We're done, I repeated and ended the call. I set the phone down carefully on the counter, my hands surprisingly steady. Around me, the kitchen felt different, smaller, but somehow cleaner, like a weight had been lifted from the air itself. I walked to my desk in the corner, pulled out the manila folder I'd been avoiding for months. Bank statements, mortgage papers, 5 years of automatic transfers that had bled me dry while they lived like royalty. Time to stop the bleeding. Part 4, the first decision, cancelling the mortgage. The document spread across my kitchen table like evidence at a crime scene. 5 years of bank statements, each one showing the same automatic transfer. 800 on the 15th of every month, vanishing from my account into theirs, a paper trail of my own stupidity. I pulled out my calculator and started adding. The first year, 33, 600, the S.